Welcome everyone to this weekend Sidereal Astrology forecast from March 24th to the 26th of 2017. So this weekend, a lot going on astrologically. On Friday, perhaps still a bit of a challenging day collectively, as it was on Thursday, when Mercury is in a T-square. There might be some challenge maybe with communication or mind, and finding some healthy ways of balancing the mind and communication can be important. The moon will also be in Capricorn on Friday, suggesting a very grounded and reserved type of energy. It does make it very good for responsibility, but of course that is the limiting, reserved kind of feeling of Capricorn. When we get into Saturday, the moon shifts into Aquarius, which is much more free-spirited. All right, in this case, I think it's very good for individuality, a bit of future orientation, progressiveness, and being who we truly are. And on Saturday as well, Venus retrograde will go over the sun, suggesting that there might be a bit of expression in relationships, maybe a bit of passion. The sun is that radiating life force energy, as well as maybe some insights about relationships, and maybe some more insights about what we value, which is what retrograde Venus has been helping us uncover. So on Sunday, with still free-spirited Aquarius with the moon here, Mercury does go over Uranus, suggesting maybe thinking outside the box, doing something new and different, maybe with the routine, changing things up. There might even be some new insights or new ideas that could be very constructive going into next week with that Mercury. All right, so that's the weekend in a nutshell, and I would say very generally about it, the energies are dying down because we are approaching a new moon very early next week. So it does make it generally a good weekend for a bit of internal reflection, maybe a bit of rest, and meditative type of energy. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down in more detail. All right, so the moon in Capricorn on Friday does suggest, again, that reserved energy, making it good for things that require responsibility and patience and persistence and all that, but certainly very grounded. And I think we can use some of that grounded energy because Mercury will be opposing up to Jupiter in that T-square. So on Friday, we may be feeling like we don't want to work on the details of things. We want to maybe just expand or see the possibilities and potentials of things, and maybe over expand into things, whether it's, with our routine or whatever it is, or what we're thinking about. So the key here with all oppositions is about balance. And this is seeing both the practical and the possible with this opposition. And, along with the T-square, Mercury from Thursday will still be squaring up to Pluto. So there might be a bit of clash, maybe with the communications or the mind or the routine or something like that. So as I was saying in the Thursday report, it's very good to have detachment with Pluto. In other words, the less we are attached to specific outcomes or things we want, to be a certain way, then it helps the energy flow. And in that way, I think it can be a very constructive day on Friday, where we could be taking some of these possibilities and working on them. Or we could be really getting into the practical side of things, yet seeing the open horizons. And the moon will be in good aspect on Friday as well. So then as we get into Saturday, the moon will be shifting into Aquarius, which does emphasize that free-spiritedness. So this is about individuality. This is about being who we are. Very good for progressive things, future things, and sometimes too, getting in contact with our network circles or friends or community, things on that level. But the whole relationship sphere does have a bit of passion about it, or there's a lot of energy about it, and that's going to be Venus retrograde over the sun. So with that, I think there is going to be some insight, probably about relationships, because Venus has been retrograde in Pisces. So we've been learning a lot about perhaps surrender and compassion and detachment in relationships. And so that can really help bring about the more accepting nature of maybe a relationship or just the overall perspective of relationships in our life. But in either case, the sun does give a lot of passion. It can bring a bit of fun and self-expression there. So it is important to stay, I think, balanced with this too, because the sun is a very fierce energy. There can be a lot of energy behind it. And so we want to make sure we're enjoying things with gratitude and appreciation and still having cooperation and harmony and all of that good stuff. If we do feel like there is a lot of that solar energy coming through. So that's the conjunction there. I do want to also mention that the moon will be going over the south node. So on Saturday, there is also some past energy being released on some level. So I think just letting some things go, maybe emotionally from the past or something like that, will be important. And again, this is part of the balsamic phase of the lunar cycle, which does emphasize a time of letting things go anyways, transitioning, being okay with, letting some things go or some perspectives or whatever. And then that's creating a sort of space for what will be new beginnings generally in our life early next week with the new moon. All right, so that's Saturday. Definitely great for individuality, free-spiritedness, that Aquarius progressive energy, and a bit of those, healthy relationship passions and fun, or values, enjoying values, the material life in a grounded way. But as we get into Sunday, Mercury then goes over Uranus, which can be actually quite exciting, maybe something new and different with the routine. Maybe we're gaining some new information, which could be progressive, innovative. Maybe we're thinking outside the box, and that information can be utilized into whatever the area might be with that. And as you can see, the moon's going to be in good aspect, conjoining Neptune, and Mars will be beginning to sextile Neptune going into next week. So I think on Sunday, probably feeling a bit easygoing, a bit accepting, and willing to go with the flow. While, this, very unique, free-spirited energy of trying new things and mixing things up can certainly be emphasized. All right, so that is the weekend. I would say generally, to sum this up, Friday is very much like Thursday in that there is a bit of clash maybe with the communication or the mind or something like that. Balance is key of seeing potentials and the practical stuff. And anything that does require the mind or communications, balance is just generally important with that. Then on Saturday, the moon does shift into free-spirited Aquarius, making it good for individualism and also good for a bit of insight about our values and relationships. And in the same process, maybe letting some past things go, which can free us up. Then as we get into Sunday, a bit of uniqueness, unique ways of looking at things. Maybe a unique new routine, something different, and for some of us, maybe exciting going into next week, which I think we'll be entering into a bit of a tranquil time, slowly but surely, as Mars sextiles up to Neptune, which we'll talk about more so next week. All right, so I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Thank you again for all of your support, and I'll see you all on Monday. Take care.